we'll go from healthcare to the more global care.
Thank you. Yes, I've been asked to talk about care as commons, and I would say that it springs partly from the work we've been doing at the New Economics Foundation in the UK about developing ideas there on the commons and looking at what are the differences and the similarities between commoning land and commoning care. It's quite interesting to think about what they have in common and where the differences are, because one of the things I've learned most from this event has been that context is everything. It's who you are, it's what you're trying to do, it's where you are in the world, and so on. But anyway, I'll do what I can to talk about care and what we've been doing to try to move towards care as commons. So, well, care, both giving and receiving care, is a fundamental necessity of life. So it ought to be ours and not anybody else's. We should control it. And care is a strong theme that's been running through a lot of the things that we've talked about during this event, including participation, solidarity, self-determination. You can't do any of those things without care. We need to care, without us caring for each other, not only in our little groups, but in groups elsewhere and across the world. So it's sort of like the thing, the glue at the centre of the concept of the commons. That's not claiming too much for it. But when we talk about care, we usually think about, certainly in the UK, about specific kinds of care. So care for the elderly, childcare, care for people with disabilities, and of course health care as well. And the idea of commoning care is a radical challenge to the structure of the welfare system that we have in the UK, and which is similar in many of the rich countries in the world. So I'm talking from that perspective, forgive me, but this is the one I know about. So care, which ought to be, which is one of life's necessities, has in a sense been enclosed, like land. So it has been that organisations that provide care have been privatised, and the costs have been driven up, partly as a result of government action through austerity programmes withdrawing support for paying for care, which means that people who need care can't get access to it, and that is an enclosure. So care, childcare, elderly care, care for disabled people has been, to an extent, not completely, but very largely enclosed, and so that's what we need to change. And it follows that care, like land, has to be claimed and controlled by the people who need it. This can't be done overnight, but there are some things that we have been doing to move in that direction. For example, trying to introduce to care in different settings the principles of co-production, which means that people are not, instead of having sort of them and us, the providers and the users of services, you have people who use or need services, defining what they need and working with professionals to design services and other activities to meet their needs, and then often playing a direct role and actively participating in delivering those things. So you transform the whole notion of what a service is by introducing co-production. The principles of co-production include equal partnership and reciprocity. So again, you've got a lot of echoes with what we've been talking about in relation to the commons. And we've done that through, not just through local initiatives, but also by introducing to government organisations that commission services at local level working with them so that they are enabled to introduce the principles of co-production into the commissioning of services and to commission services that are co-produced. Now, I could say a lot of people are really keen on this idea, and we've had a lot of training sessions and so on. The actual practical implementation is not widespread, but this is how we hope to move in the right direction through advocating for and enabling people to learn about the principles of co-production and what it means in practice. Taking it on to a more practical level, we have been working with groups of parents in different parts of the country to set up parent-led childcare cooperatives. So this is care that is close to the commons, the commoning set of ideals. So that instead of it being a private company that you pay money to, who then produces childcare for you, you as a parent will participate in the running of the childcare and decide how it's run and be there some of the time. I mean, it depends on your working schedule, of course, but these childcare, parent-led childcare organisations are beginning to spring up across the country. There aren't very many of them yet, but there are a lot of people who are very interested in how we can introduce these organisations in order to break through the real problem that we have with childcare, which of course keeps a lot of women out of the, deprives them of the opportunity to enter into paid employment and perpetuates inequalities between women and men and so on. So childcare co-ops and principles of co-production are some of the things that we're trying to do. Now, I want to make another point, and it relates back to what the previous speaker was talking about health, because you said that we all have a right to health, and health is not just about hospitals, although hospitals are important. It's about the determinants of health. And care, and having access to care, and being able to give care is a determinant of health. So you can address people's health not just through medical care, but through having care throughout your life, meaningful relationships, strong families, care when you need it for mental health issues or whatever it might be. And it plays a preventative role. So if we get the care right, whether it's for children or for older people, we can reduce the amount of needs that people have for medical care or the curative treatment and cure, kind of downstream health care, if you like. So care is upstream preventative work. Now, and this links back to a point that Lily made yesterday, that we have to think very hard about how we do meet our needs, because we want to meet them in ways that do not deprive our shared resources of the money that we need to save the planet. So we can't, to put it very crudely, in the rich world, we can't go on pouring money into hospitals and people who are just picking up the pieces when people get ill, when we could be spending it much more economically on making sure people are able to stay well, and then the money that would otherwise be spent on downstream healthcare can be spent on the kind of things we need to do to save the planet. So, the green infrastructure, the alternative energy systems and so on. And we need to see all of this as a single whole. So I think the preventative dimension of care is a very important point as well. So I think that's probably, just one last point. I haven't said, it's very obvious that care encompasses both paid and unpaid labour. And the role of the state is not to provide care, but to enable people to provide both care that is paid and unpaid, and synthesize them so that people are working together, so that unpaid carers work with professionals who ask them when they need to, and to ensure to distribute public funds so that people can have care, to make sure that everyone has equal access, and to guarantee standards. And And so that's an important final point. So if our project is a radical one, with a struggle against the neoliberal paradigm, care must be recognised as central to that struggle. Care of people, care of the planet, giving care, receiving care. So that's where we start, among workers and among service users. Thank you.